15 days until the start of the NHL regular season. I am pumped, and as pumped as I am, nobody's as pumped as this guy. My friend, your television friend, Craig Button. He's back for his first appearance on SportsCenter with Jay Onrait this season. First of all, Craig, it's so great to see you. How was your summer?
Summer was fantastic. It's great to see you. I'll be in studio when the season begins, so it'll be a lot of fun to kick off the NHL regular season and be sitting there right beside you. You know we're going to have fun. And the NHL season, it promises fun and some disappointment, depending on where your rooting interest is.
That's true. Well, let's start with some optimism in our nation's capital, because that fan base has gone through a lot over the last decade or so, and now they have a new owner, Craig, and they have a new starting goaltender, and they've got Jake Sanderson on a long-term deal, and they still need to sign Shane Pinto, but they were 6 points out of a playoff spot last year. How much better is this version of the team that Pierre Dorian's put together, in your opinion, compared to that team last year?
I think it's markedly better, and I think it's playoff better. And I'm not just looking at the Ottawa Senators as getting into the playoffs. I think the Ottawa Senators can be the New Jersey Devils this season, what the New Jersey Devils were last year. A team that had built with a lot of youth, had been patient with their youth, and now that youth, really good talent, was ready to take it to the next level. That's where I see the Ottawa Senators. You know, Claude Giroux came in and was a fantastic player. They make the trade for Jacob Chychrun. Anton Forsberg's going to be better because he's in a tandem with Korpisalo. Korpisalo is going to be better. You look at Jake Sanderson. That makes Thomas Chabot better. You know, when you start to look at the lineup and you start to look at how balanced they are and how they can play in so many different ways, they'll get Shane Pinto signed. I don't have any doubt about that. Tim Stützle, he's an emerging superstar. We know what Brady Tkachuk is. He's the heartbeat of this team. I have no doubt that this team is capable of being in the playoffs, and I think they can be just like New Jersey was last year. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, where teams are at and everything. I don't know if teams in the Eastern Conference, and maybe specifically teams or fans that support the Toronto Maple Leafs, realize how good the Ottawa Senators are. Because if I was the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'd be really, really worried about the Ottawa Senators. I think they're well built. I think they're ready to win, and they have a real attitude. They have that attitude that says, oh, you want to underestimate you? We're coming after you. We're coming right after you, and we're ready to play. And I think that that's an attitude that will serve them well, and I think it will pose a lot of challenges. The Battle of Ontario is back, baby.
Yes. I love it. I love it. We're excited about having a little feistiness in that battle. Craig, I know you spent a lot of time watching the Jets last year. An interesting offseason, maybe not the offseason we expected. You get the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, and then after that, it's somewhat quiet. And Scheifele and Hellebuyck are back with the team, and they're saying all the right things. They're not saying that they don't want to resign. They're just playing a bit of a wait-and-see game. So speaking of wait-and-see, in what kind of scenario, Craig, do you see one or both still with the team past the trade deadline this year?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And certainly one the Winnipeg Jets fans are going to ask themselves. Kevin Cheveldayoff's going to be watching very closely to see where his team is at. You know, when we look at where Scheifele and Hellebuyck are age-wise, you can say, okay, what's a long-term contract? Are you prepared to give them 8-year contracts? Can you get a term that's maybe not as long, but that will compensate them? And what is the market out there? Kevin Cheveldayoff showed this summer in the trade where Pierre-Luc Dubois went to Los Angeles that he could have gone a lot of different ways. He could have gone draft picks. He could have gone prospects, said, hey, you know, we're retooling for the future. He got 3 players that are going to help his team be really good this year. Mark Scheifele, we know how good a player he is. We know that his contract, that he's outperformed it to a great degree, and now is a potential unrestricted free agent. His payday's coming in a real significant way. Connor Hellebuyck, one of the best 5 goaltenders in the National Hockey League, there's no doubt about it. The Winnipeg Jets are better with those 2 players. How the season unfolds, where they get to, I think is going to be a real determining factor for Kevin Cheveldayoff. Do I trade them? And maybe what he does is say, I'm not trading them. We're going to try to do everything we can to be better this year, to push chips in for this season. And maybe they walk at the end of the year, but I don't think we can make that assessment today. We can all have our opinions. Should they move them? Are they a Stanley Cup contender? Sometimes we look too much to, oh, where do they need to be in 3 years? I think Kevin Cheveldayoff's going to keep his finger right on the pulse of this year. And those two players, Hellebuyck and Scheifele, who are top-notch players, they're going to perform. They're going to play to the best of their abilities. Of that, I have no doubt. And if the other players can come in, I think they're a better balanced team. I think they're a bigger, stronger, faster team. They made the playoffs last year, even though they had a quarter of a season where they stumbled. I don't have any question they're a playoff team. It'll be interesting to see how good they can be with these two players, because these two players make them better, and I think it'll be a real determining factor if they stay there, one, both, or neither of them near the trade deadline. I would say this to Winnipeg Jets fans: trust Kevin Cheveldayoff. He has shown that he can make the moves to keep the team competitive, and he's not afraid to be patient, and at the same time, he's not afraid to be bold if that is what is required.
Boy, he got a heck of a haul for Dubois. That was a terrific job by Cheveldayoff on that trade, Craig. You're in Calgary. You obviously follow the Flames very closely. We know the disappointment of last season. We know the changes in the front office. You know, and I know the Elias Lindholm contract is looming over this team, but it feels like Jonathan Huberdeau's situation is almost bigger in a sense that they've invested so much in him. His contract kicks in now, and they need him to be the player that they know he can be. 2 goals in the preseason opener on Sunday night. He looked great with Nazem Kadri. How do you feel Huberdeau is going to do this season under Ryan Huska, Craig?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of things that didn't go right for the Calgary Flames last year. Obviously, Jonathan Huberdeau never found the form that he had the previous year. I don't think he's going to find that form ever again. But Jonathan Huberdeau, to me, is an 85-point player, and he showed that over a lot of seasons with the Florida Panthers. So I think he can get back to that level, and if he gets back to that level, that is going to be really, really good news for the Calgary Flames. He's got lots of incentive. You know, the contract kicks in this year. He knows he didn't have a good year last year, but just because you have one bad year doesn't mean you have to have 2. And I don't think Jonathan will have 2 bad years. Nazem Kadri, he didn't find his rhythm, you know, consistently through the year. I think he is going to be a big difference maker. Elias Lindholm is a top-notch centerman. He's not going to be that 90-point player, but he's going to be that player that helps you win in so many different ways. I think Markstrom will bounce back. This team just missed the playoffs last year. They're still an excellent defensive team. They had so many one-goal losses. If they just win 3 of those one-goal games, they're in the playoffs. I think last year, a lot of things didn't go their way. There was a lot of friction throughout the organization in a lot of different areas. They've made changes, but I think on the ice, the talent that they have is good enough. And I think that the players want to show that last year was not representative of what their capabilities are. I expect the team to be in the playoffs this year and to show that they're a much better team than they showed last year. This isn't a team that has to go and replace players. This is a team that has to just play to their capabilities, and I think they will.
What a start for Craig Button. Just came firing out of a cannon, and he's already in mid-season form. And we should mention the 2 Western Conference teams we just talked about, the Jets and Flames, actually open their seasons against each other. That'll be on October the 11th. Craig, this is so much fun. We'll look forward to chatting with you more as we get closer to the season.
I sure will, and I look forward to seeing you once the season begins.